Greetings, kind-hearted souls. It's Fran with Into the Marvelous Light. All of you kind, sensitive, and empathetic souls out there, hello to you. If you are new to the channel, thank you so much for hitting that subscribe button and coming on over here. Thank you for sharing and fellowshipping with me. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, come on in the room. Jesus is our doctor, and he writes out all of our prescriptions. Speaking of professionals, have you ever had a narcissist to absolutely fool officers of the law? Do they just have a way with police officers? Do they have a way of speaking with lawyers and judges in court? Let's talk about that subject today. Due to the narcissist's inflated ego and fake confidence, they feel like they are above the law. They feel like they can do no wrong, and they feel like there's no consequences for their actions. They feel like they can literally get away with anything that they want, and they will never be caught. Narcissists feel like they are real bad boys. This is until it's time for them to meet the bad boys of the law. When I was married to the narcissist, I suffered a great deal of physical blows to my face. Lots of punches, several bruises, and lots of concussions. Some of those times I was able to get away from him and lock myself in the bathroom, get away from him and go outside. And during those times, I would be able to call the police. Sometimes the neighbors would hear what happened and they would call the police. The narcissist had a really bad habit of running from the police. He didn't want to stay there and face his consequences. He didn't want to have to be arrested and go to jail. And he spent a lot of time running away from the police. I can remember a few times that he would take his shirt off and run outside the house, maybe run down the sidewalk or run a few blocks and go hide in the bushes. Sometimes he would be bold enough to get in his vehicle and drive off. I remember a few times that the police came to our apartment. One time, the narcissist was hiding in the closet and they made him come out. And there was one time that the narcissist hid under the bed. I remember letting the police officers in, and I'm looking real crazy because they can't find the narcissist inside the apartment. And I'm thinking, well, sir, I didn't make it up. You can see that he punched me. You can see my face. He did not leave the apartment. And they're looking all around the apartment for him. And somehow, at the end of their searching, they knew that he was under the bed. And probably about 3 or 4 police officers surround the marital bed, demanding that he comes out. And the scary part is, all of them had their guns drawn, demanding that the narcissist come from under the bed. I am scared to death. And I'm very glad that they didn't shoot him. This is just the kind of dangerous and reckless behavior that they can do to avoid having to face responsibility, take ownership, and deal with their consequences. They are so intent on getting their way, getting over on people, beating the system, that this is the type of behavior that they engage in. One time, the narcissist punched me, and he did manage to run out of the apartment. And he ran out of the apartment and ran over to the gym of the apartment complex and hid in there. One of the officers found him and he was arrested. There again, the narcissists have this obsession with outsmarting people, getting over on people, and getting away with things. They feel like they've done it before and they can do it again. They feel like each time they get away with something, that they become experts on getting away with things. They feel like the more and more they don't get caught, the more and more they won't get caught. This is false pride. This is arrogance at its finest. And this is a very prideful spirit. I remember one time the narcissist was bullying me, following me around our house, starting an argument, becoming increasingly more angry. And based on his past behavior, I could already feel when there was about to be a violent episode, if he was going to physically attack me and get violent. And so I locked myself in the bathroom to avoid that. This enraged the narcissist, and he kicked in the bathroom door. The bathroom door had been kicked in so many times that the frame of the door was completely shattered and damaged. Once he kicked in the door, I tried to remain calm, and I got our very young son, who was around 3 years old at the time, and I went outside and locked myself in my vehicle. When I got in the vehicle, I called 911. I asked the police to come over. When the police got there, it was probably about 5 or 6 of them. They got there, I was still in my car, and the narcissist was inside. By the time the police officers got there, the narcissist was a completely different person. Very, very calm. Very, very upbeat. And they knocked on the door and they asked him to come outside after I explained to them what was happening. The narcissist comes outside with a bounce in his step. Next thing I knew it, all of the officers were surrounding the narcissist in a circle, and they were just chatting it up like they were at a campfire. Chatting it up like they were part of the Boy Scout. Having a meeting at the Boys Club. Now, I can't really hear what they're saying because I'm still afraid, and I have my son and myself locked in my vehicle with the windows all the way up. I did manage to hear the narcissist tell the officers that, "Oh, I was just talking to her. We were just having a conversation. She didn't want to hear what I had to say, and she just walked off." One of the officers walked back to my vehicle and told me, "If you guys are married, you can't stop him from talking to you. If he wants to talk, then that's just part of you guys being married." And I was floored. And I said, "Sir, would you please go into the house and look at the bathroom door that he kicked in? And do you know that that police officer refused to go look at the bathroom door. I was trying to explain to him the precursor for the punching, but they didn't want to hear about it. Needless to say, I did get punched later on. I do understand that sometimes there is a reputation or a pattern. If the police see that you constantly call them all the time, they're constantly being called out for domestic violence disputes, they kind of get tired of it. And they feel like it's always the same couple. It's always the same issue. It's always the same accusation. And a lot of times they feel like you're not going to leave them. You're still here. So why even call us? One time, after the narcissist gave me a concussion and the police officers came out to arrest him, one police officer pulled me to the side, and he happened to pull me into my office where I had all of my certificates on the wall from what I earned in school. It was just an entire wall of certificates, whether it was academic achievement, whether it was being in a band, whether it was a college degree. I had them on my wall. The office was the place that I went to escape. And the police officer asked me, and he was almost emotional, and he said, "Are all these certificates yours?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Why do you allow him to treat you that way? Why do you allow him to treat you like a dog?" He says, "You are not a dog." And those words stuck with me, and I'll never forget it. I didn't have an answer to that question. All I knew at that time was that he had beaten me down so much, literally and emotionally, that I didn't think very much of myself. You're married to a person that supposedly loves you, and all you can get from them is ill treatment, bad treatment, dog out. And it makes you question whether or not you're worthy of love when you can't get it from the person that's supposed to give it to you. The person that took a vow and made a promise to love you. And they're doing any and everything but that. I remember going to court with a narcissist trying to get a restraining order. And I was afraid to talk in court, even though I had all of my documentation, all of my proof. I had photos of injuries and property damage and all of that. And I don't know how the narcissist convinced the judge that I didn't need a restraining order. If it wasn't for the domestic violence advocate that happened to be in court that day and saw me struggling to even talk, I wouldn't have gotten a restraining order granted to me. Maybe the judge felt like, since I couldn't even articulate anything, that I didn't need a restraining order. I was exaggerating or making stuff up. Or maybe it was just men stick together. I really don't know. Today, when I look back on it, I'm just grateful to have gotten away and grateful to be alive. There's nothing worse than being punished in your own home. And then when you try to seek help, people don't believe you. And people look the other way. And people refuse to help you. There's nothing worse than hearing someone say, "Oh, you must like the abuse. That's why you stay with him." Lots of people don't understand the cycle of abuse, the makeup and the breakup, the twisting of your brain that the narcissist does, make you think that they're sorry, make you think that they'll never do it again. And they do it all over again. They get you hooked and addicted to the version of themselves that they first presented you with. They showed you fake kindness, fake gentlemen. And you could spend years and years waiting for that person to come back. And they're not going to come back because they were never that. Sometimes the narcissist can fool officers of the law, lawyers and judges. But there's one that sits on the throne, that sits high, looks low, beholding the good and the evil, and he will judge. Mark 22 and 21. And he said to them, "Render, therefore, to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's." Now, the narcissist went against two sets of laws. There are laws governing domestic violence and assault, and he went against the laws of the land. And God says, "He who loves me will keep my commandments." The narcissist took a vow to love, honor, and cherish his wife, and he didn't do that. Instead, he punched her for several years. The law says, love your wife as Christ loved the church, insomuch that he laid down his life for it. The narcissist never loved me, and he never laid down his life for me. Here is a judgment from God. Psalms 5, 4 through 6. For thou art not a God that hath pleasure in wickedness, neither shall evil dwell with thee. The foolish shall not stand in thy sight. Thou hatest all workers of iniquity. Thou shalt destroy them that speak falsehood. The Lord will detest the bloody and deceitful man. God is not pleased with the narcissist lying to the police officers about what he had done. God is not pleased with the narcissist serving up iniquity in the courtroom. If you are fighting with the narcissist in any way, whether it's in a legal capacity, a court case, divorce proceeding, be of good cheer and be of good faith. There is a law that the narcissist cannot beat. And there is a lawyer that wins every case. Continue to fight the good fight of faith and let the Lord Jesus Christ avenge you. Vengeance is mine, thus say the Lord. I will repay thee. No matter what the narcissist does to you, no matter what they think that they're getting away with, no matter what they have done to you in the past, Jesus Christ is your best defender.